Herbert Fahr Jr., seaman recruit to Engineman second class. We went down around through the Panama Canal, Long Beach. We stopped in Long Beach. We stopped in San Francisco. We stopped in Seattle, Washington. Thousands of visitors aboard. A lot of fun picking up girls. And eventually we headed to Bremerton, Washington, Navy Yard, and right into dry dock. A funny story about dry dock, I missed that. As the water was being pumped out of the dry dock, they had, the dry dock was made out of stone, you know, and they had stairs on either side going down, built into the dry dock. And as the water was going down, the shipyard workers were going down as the water leveled in. I said, they're probably gonna do some rigging or something down below, you know. Now, as soon as the water went all the way down, these guys were running like crazy all over the place. I said, what the hell's going on? And pretty soon, they were coming up, big salmon. They were carrying salmon up that got caught inside the dry dock, and when they drained the water out, they were sitting there flopping. So this was a meal for a couple of weeks. That was interesting. And I stayed in dry dock, a lot of work. Shipyard workers came by and mothballing the ship. Well, we had I was in the after diesel, and we had to tear down the engine and preserve it, empty the fuel tank, the day tank, preserve it, tear down most of the equipment and put it in a condition that it could be used again, right, with some help. One of the things was that, bringing back memories, yeah, we were down in the bottom of the ship. You couldn't go down any further. And there's this massive Fairbanks Morse diesel engine with a generator on it. And of course, it's got an exhaust pipe. Now that exhaust pipe goes all the way up into the stacks of the ship. That's a long way up. Well, each section of that stack, there were expansion sections. We had to unbolt those expansion sections and put in a preservative into the inside of the stack. And that was a job, because in some of those places you couldn't. You had to be that thin to crawl in there to get that section out. But it was accomplished. And well, like cleaning out the day tank, the Navy Yard had special clothing so that you didn't soil your own clothing, you know, with boots and which you turned in because they got full of oil and grease and everything else. When we, just before we left our space, all of our guys in that worked in that space, I had gone to the machine shop and got a brass plate and had stamped in all the guys' names that were in that compartment at the time of the decommissioning. And we drilled some holes in the stanchion coming off the generator and riveted this in. Rivet, okay? The thing I failed to do was to paint it, because 30 years later, I asked Captain Case about this at one of our reunions, and he says, you know, you're the second guy that asked me about that. He says, no, it wasn't there. He says, was it made out of brass? I says, yeah. He says, forget about it. The shipyard workers went through that ship, and every piece of brass that could be moved was taken off and put in their junk pile so that they could sell that later on as scrap metal. Copper, brass, anything that would bring them a buck. So I have a picture of it. It's very blurry, but I recalled the layout and the names that were on there, and made up a drawing, which I eventually sent to the Missouri Memorial. I showed the curator on the Missouri Memorial the 4 holes where the rivets were. Well, I was sorry that the ship was being decommissioned. I would have spent my whole 4 years on the ship if it had been willed, but I was sorry to leave, and it just never dawned on me that it might someday be recommissioned and someday be a museum or a memorial. And February 28th, they decommissioned the ship, and that was it. I left just before Christmas, and went home on leave.